Welcome to the 2020 Online USA TKD Grand Slam. I'm Barbara Brand out here on the West Coast, and I'm joined by Miyako Yerick in her what looks like super cool spot out on the East Coast. How you doing, Miyako?
I'm great, Coach Brand. I'm excited to be here with you day 2. We have the second episode of this Cadet and Junior Grand Slam. And we're going to kick it off today with the junior female black belt preliminary round.
Yeah, what's exciting about this round is we have over 60 competitors in this round, right?
Yeah, so we have a really big division. We had a big division last night with those cadet girls. Now we have the juniors, so 15 to 17-year-old girls all over the country, which is so great. So we're going to get to see a really great division. We had a lot of competitive athletes. I was just so impressed, the whole division. So I'm excited to get this junior round now kicked off tonight.
Yeah, last night we had a lot of deep talent, and we have that again tonight. So it's going to be super exciting. I know you're out there in the Miyako commentary cave, and we're really excited to, join you and every other viewer across the country and maybe even across the world, across the planet. Hope everybody has a snack. It's probably a 2-snack episode, to be honest with you. So go ahead and grab that before we start, and we'll get to it.
Here we go.
Yes, let's go. Here's the female junior black belt division off and running. Here's a referee group to start off with here. And our first athlete is Erin Kwan from California. She's with Team Kim Boyan. And her first Poomsae today, of course, choreo.
So if you're just joining us, the female junior black belt division here, junior athletes are 15, 16, and 17 years old. She's really reaching up for those side kicks.
Yeah, she did a good job on that first pair, and the second one here really pushed him up.
Good job just staying in the screen, which allows her to be up nice and close.
Good, a nice solid finish for Erin's first Poomsae. Your score rolling in at 6.67. So in our first episode, we had a range from about, I think it was high 5s or mid 5s all the way up to 7.9, right, Miyako?
Yeah, that's right. That 7.9 was the high score, but it did get all the way to the high 5. So a good range of scores, but here already our first athlete, Erin, coming out with a good 6.67. And here on to the second form of Tebek.
Right, she has really nice high front kicks on that first line. So let's see how she does on that same line, the last line at the end of the Poomsae. Right, really, definitely a highlight of her form for sure, right? Those front kicks, especially the left side, really punching up.
Absolutely. She gets it so straight and high. Nice extension on the base leg as well, keeping that nice and tall. Even though she does open up that base foot about to 90 degrees, but it's a great extension on the top, so it's okay.
Yeah, and gets a higher score here, 6.97. And these athletes haven't known Tebek as long as they have had choreo, so it's a nice score for her in that second Poomsae. So she finishes up with a 6.817. Up next, we have Jamie Hannah Aglos, and she's from Michigan. She trains at Flying V Martial Arts with her coach, Vincent Vienna. Nice, she got that real clear space in her home, plenty of room to do the Poomsae.
Yeah, I really like seeing some of these home spaces where people can train. Looks like they created a nice big open space enough to get a full form, and she also is pushing up these side kicks.
Check out this right one. Oftentimes people like that right one better. That looked nice and clean. And wow, just enough space on that side to clear that little temporary barrier there. Nice strong finish.
Yeah, a little late settling in some of the stances on those double hand motions where she locks out on the second hand technique rather than the first.
Right.
But really nice and a huge score. Geez, 7.3.
Yeah, 7.3. You know,
So
many of the Flying V martial arts competitors have been competing at their club site. So this is interesting. I wonder if due to COVID, they were disallowed from being in the indoor setting. So now they're, you know, doing everything they can to continue competing, no matter what that means. And that's a really good sign that, you know, just because one venue is not open for you anymore, you're going to try to find a solution.
Right, and there were no rules of needing to be on mats. So here on carpet, perfectly fine. She probably trains here at home, so she's used to it. It is different from mats, of course, but doing a good job here to finish out. And we've only had 2 tournaments that have been sanctioned by USA TKD, so only 2 tournaments to give these ranking points. So some of these athletes we haven't seen before. And here, Jamie Hanna getting a 7.33.
Wow.
So normally these scores would be in, you know, you kind of expect them to go up. 7.317 combined score there. But
yeah,
because
we expect them to go up, right? Because we have some of the seeded athletes toward the end of the division, but some of these athletes haven't competed in some of our tournaments that will get them points. So even though they aren't seeded, or they're, you know, going in the first 2 cases, number 59 or 58, they still may be very, very strong competitors.
Exactly. I was just going to say, these first few athletes who don't have any ranking points yet could come in and just
this perspective looks like it's a little bit maybe on, it's changing actually. So it looks like it was on the floor maybe, and then leaning upwards. So it's a little bit harder for us to view maybe. It looks like it's kind of shifting up and down. Maybe just straightening out that camera a little bit higher. You might be able to appreciate the Poomsae just a little bit more. So that's just a note for the athlete, maybe to take a look at that before the next event.
Step.
She's off to a strong start though with Tebek, and the further away she is, the better she looks. When she comes a little bit closer, it's a little bit hard for us to view it properly. A really nice side kick there.
I think one small accuracy thing she could do to quickly bump that score up is she has a lot of heel pivots, or the heel picks up on the transitions, like right there in the 180. That'll give her a lot of little minor points back if she can just keep that heel down on the transitions.
Yep, you add up all the turns where that might take place, that could be up to half a point, maybe even more, because we have so many transitions from side to side. So either heel popping up or pivoting on the heel will cost a 0.1 deduction. So she ends up with a 6.23, higher score, much higher score.
That's a whole point higher.
Yeah, look at that. Really nice, 5.75. But I just think in general, just maybe raise that camera up a little bit, and then you might find that score coming up. This is Mackenzie Hewitt from Washington. She's at Northwest Sport Taekwondo under Trinity Tong Osborne. Now, have we seen this site before, Miyako?
I don't recognize it. I feel like I would remember the medals up there in the corner and the mats.
All that bling in the corner, that's pretty impressive, and I don't recall that either.
They got their team swag there on the wall on the left.
Yeah. So welcome, MW Sport Taekwondo. It's good to see you up there in Washington joining us.
Mackenzie's taking a very deliberate approach here. Those double side kicks at the beginning were very intentional. I think if she loosens up a little bit more, has some more connection, it'll look a little better, but very good kind of going through the form confidently.
And she gets a 5.7. She did get a couple of hits, pretty big on the accuracy there. So let's take a look at what happens during pivot. Well, yeah, there's those heel pops that we're talking about. We might see that a lot, and really good instruction here as you're watching the video to see how you can make adjustments next time. She's got a pretty good side kick for sure. We just got to do a little bit of cleaning on some of these stances here and transitions, getting those heels kind of popping up. I think sometimes the athletes don't even feel that, right, Miyako?
Yeah, I think watching videos really does help. So hopefully you can watch back your video here in the Grand Slam, watch some of the other competitors in the division, and pick up on some things to clean up, like those heel pivots and the heel popping up. I think then that'll clean up that accuracy a bit. But here she gets a 5.43 on the second form.
And 5.567 altogether. I bet, like 3 tournaments in the future, we won't even see any heel popping or heel pivot.
Right.
Because people will see it right there on the screen and say, oh, okay, I get it. Ooh, nice double side kick to start off for Alyssa Mancha from California. She's at Elite Taekwondo Center with Master Kwang Yun Baek.
Hard to tell. Some of those neck strikes looked a little high. Could be the camera angle.
Right. When it's not quite level, it's hard to tell exactly. Good extension on her side kicks, though.
I found having a mirror in a dojang while I was recording very distracting on those kind of moves where you're going towards the mirror, trying not to look at yourself. I had to cover it up because it was very distracting, but she did a really great job with that side kick on that side being nice and clean.
Yeah, it can throw off your timing a little bit, especially if you have a mirror on one side and nothing on the other. So she gets a score of 6.83. It's like when some athletes record outside, one side they're looking into the sun and the other that they aren't. It kind of can really be a little bit off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
So new for these athletes is probably the, working with the Hakari Sogi here, and also the Poomsae at the beginning of the form. Sometimes feels a little funky, but looks like she's becoming pretty familiar with the Poomsae. That's probably her strongest line right there.
The right leg front kick needs to pull and point with the toes just a little more. It's showing a flexion in the ankle, but the second side on that last bar was good. So it's just one of those ankles that needs to be a little bit straighter.
Yeah, her right side, right? Okay, so 6.7, a little bit lower score, but that's to be expected because athletes haven't worked with this form as much as they have with choreo. So she finishes with a score of 6.767. Up next is her teammate Zoe Adams. Nice control on that first double side kick. The same here. So she's not really pushing up high. She's not taking that risk, which a lot of athletes do. They don't know where it's going to land. But that was a really nice calculated side kick height.
Yeah, she really seems to have a good awareness and control of her body. She's not pushing anything. Fell out a little bit there on that side kick. But overall, I feel like she has a really good composure.
Ooh, nice retraction off of that second one. So maybe Zoe, look at those two kicks. The left one, not quite as much retraction and control, and the second one retracted very beautifully.
Good. Nice elbow thrust on the last move. Yeah.
So Zoe starts off with a 7.0. And I know last night when we were going through episode 1, boy, those athletes at first, they felt pretty safe if they were getting around a 7, but then the numbers just kept getting higher and higher and higher as we went through the 60 some odd athletes. And so she's in a good spot right now with a 7, but hopefully she can get even higher on this one.
Yeah, of course, the divisions are different, so we have different referees. The cutoff will be different, but for the cadet girls, it was like a 7.1 or so to make it into the semis. So we'll see how high those junior scores go. But Zoe here is doing a good job, very controlled on those side kicks, I thought.
Really good. Same thing like you mentioned with the last competitor about that foot position for front kick. We have to really make sure that's nice, clean, tight, toes back, and the heel pushed upward toward the calf. If you want to think about it that way, the heel comes up for the calf, and then the toes flex upward. Oh, another 7.0. So she's in really good shape right now. I think in the number 2 spot.
That's right. Yeah. And so here are the rankings with the first 6 athletes. We will see these rankings pop up every 6 or so. So Jamie Hanna in first, followed by Zoe, and then I believe it was Alyssa.
Right. So up here we have Kimberly Wynn. Looks like she's competing at home too. So she's in a restricted space, which is tough. I remember practicing in my bedroom and only being able to do one step at a time. She's doing a really good job of making sure she gets a whole. I don't know how she did that. That was a pretty interesting strategy that she had to try to get everything in that small space. So that one got dinged because it was the incorrect form. So we just need to double check the Poomsae sheet before we get started. And looks like she's performing choreo here, and that would have been the first Poomsae. And of course, Quebec is the second.
Right. I think the video also is vertical here. Normally, we ask athletes to submit it in a horizontal format, but because she's coming so close, we actually get to see a lot of her with the video upright like this. So that is helpful in this case.
Well, what I like is her expression. So she's showing a lot of focus and intensity in each movement. I just love that. Like, everybody has a different expression, and hers was very calm and consistent throughout the whole of the order of the Poomsae and the inability for the judges to see the whole form. It did get hit with a pretty low score, but next time maybe turn it sideways, and that will be a good start. And then just have a little bit more space between you and the camera. So up next we have this Jessica Chung. No, this is Olivia Adams, right?
Yeah, Olivia Adams.
Yeah, from California. She's at Elite Taekwondo Center. Boy, we have so many athletes from Elite in this division. That's pretty fun. Y'all get to compete with and against each other. She's with Master Kwang Yo Bae.
Yeah, it looks like this might just be a different angle, that sky background there on the left now instead of behind the athlete. So she might be facing the mirror here, actually.
Yeah, we're getting to know these dojongs pretty well.
Right. I was
you know?
thinking I feel like I get to know everybody's dojang spaces where they're training just through all the videos.
And she has 6.9 for first Poomsae. Sometimes it might have to do with the light, right? Like different times of day, you get that gush of light that comes in that might be either good or bad. So she may have just adjusted and maybe facing a mirror, but that might have to do with lighting more than anything.
Gotta watch those rise and fall
punches. Yeah, I think the punches were a little bit off center, so that's something that we should maybe check, especially when you're doing it on video. Just check after you record to make sure all those are centered up. Yeah, I see what you mean. A little up and down motion through some of the techniques, especially on the turns. And that's common. Athletes try to get into a rhythm, but sometimes it's an up and down rhythm instead of, I don't know, different kind of flow.
Grounded.
Right.
Cadet Junior.
But those three girls from the same studio all move fairly similarly. I think they should do a team if they don't.
Yeah, for sure. She gets a 6.77. It's a little bit of a drop. It might have had to do a bit with that rise and fall, as we mentioned. She gets a 6.833 overall. And some of the accuracy hits on maybe the punch ending. And that's kind of an easy thing to fix, right, Miyako?
시작.
Centering those punches, you get a 0.3 higher.
Yeah, crossing over all the techniques, coming towards the camera. We saw it with Paul Jong yesterday with the cadet girls.
Right, this is Jessica Chung from Team Elite in California. She's training with Coach Victor Chung. I like those side kicks at the beginning of the Poomsae. It looks like she has no trouble with the height.
Jeez. Yeah, very flexible. Front kicks and side kicks, although there is a little bit of a swing motion at the top of the side kick. So you do want to get the knee as high as you can and just pop it straight up so it doesn't end up looking like a swinging motion.
It almost looked like it swung behind her too. Looked like she had that flexibility that goes a little bit behind her hip. I'm not sure how that's humanly possible, but you know, if you have that kind of flexibility, maybe just move it to a little bit more aligned position. So she gets a 6.67 for the first one. And I know those guys down there at Team Elite work a lot on side kicks. So she is surrounded by people that will help her with that for sure. Wow. You see that kick?
It's so easy. The knee just pops nuts. Right out.
Great. It's the details though, you know, so we have that great flexibility, but then we have all the hand techniques too. And the stance work that has to be solid.
Yeah, on that side kick bar at the top there, the uppercut fist didn't quite break. The plane needs to come up to the chin level. But yeah, these front kicks are just such a highlight.
Yeah, great potential. And she's got good transitions. Those heels stay down. She knows how to pivot correctly, going from side to side. So nice turn. So that's Jessica Chung from Team Elite USA out here in California. And she gets a 6.6. So those little tiny things are going to matter today.
Yeah, I think a little more connection between moves will help her performance score. But a 6.633 is a solid score for now.
And this is Jenna Doe. She's from Virginia. She's from World Class Tiger Eye. Oh, that's a cool name. World Class Tiger Eye Taekwondo, coached by perhaps her father or mother, Master Hanjin Do.
Yeah, that's her dad. He was one of the team leaders on a collegiate team a few years back when I was on the team. So I got to travel with him to Korea, I believe. Now his daughter here in the junior division, I've seen her grown up a little, and great to see her competing. First time we've seen her at a sanctioned USA TKD event so far, and making this look very easy. Yeah,
nice side kick, nice strength. She almost seems like she's ready to go to the senior division.
Yeah, I'm not sure what age she is in this junior division, but you're right. A lot of core strength, turning there on the hand motions. It looks really great.
Yeah, good score, 7.13. This is a great division, Miyako, because we have so many athletes from different parts of the country. So far we've had athletes from California, Michigan, North Carolina, Washington, and Virginia. We have athletes coming up from Colorado, Pennsylvania, Oregon, Nevada, Illinois, New Jersey. This is a really deep division.
Right, in the junior division, like I mentioned, 15 to 17 years old, so only 3 years, and then they head into that senior one, which is 18 to 30, so they will be there for more than a decade. It's one of the longest age divisions to really develop the Poomsae. I think Jenna here a little bit off on some of those hand techniques coming forward, not getting quite to the center line. But overall, I think fixing a couple of those accuracy details will help the scores. Just I think this one might be a little lower.
And 7.1, so just a tad lower than the last 4. Yeah, so these athletes are coming from the cadet division. It's 12, 13, and 14 years old. And then same thing in the junior division, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and then up to seniors, your division actually, Miyako. So how is that being in division? It's the biggest division in terms of the age range, right? So how does that feel?
Yeah, it's interesting too because, you know, they're just basically either finishing up high school or starting college. So you see a lot of people drop out once you get into the senior one, either in college or something else happens, you know, 25, a lot of people drop out. So it gets really big in their last year of high school. So I hope everybody in this division continue training. Try and find a club at your college. Let me know. I'm on the board of the National Collegiate Taekwondo Association, so I can try and help you find a club as well. But this is Ariana Amiri. I believe we saw her sister in the senior 1 division. I remember this garage. And she's opening up nice and strong.
Yeah, she's from NorCal. She's with High Five Taekwondo and coached by Master Jong Yi. Looks
like maybe they don't have a tripod because the camera's moving just a little bit, but she stays in the frame.
Right, so somebody looks like they're holding it for her at 7.1. You know, that's something we think we can do, but then partway through, we get a little case of the wobbles for one reason or another. So maybe best just to set it down on a little side table or something, pull one out of the house, put it on the table, and then you're good to go. A little bit of shrug on those front kicks, so maybe keeping those shoulders down would be helpful. And then those punches, again, like we mentioned with some of the other athletes, you can see those straight on, so they need to be centered up. This needs to be a real hakari.
So I think she's just a little bit tense in her shoulders. We're seeing a little hunching, a little extra motion on the upper half, the torso of the body. If she can relax the shoulders, get a little bit more core turn as she goes forward, it'll help soften it out and then have the power come through at the end. It'll just look a little bit stronger without having to put power all the way through the motion.
Yeah, of course, easier said than done, right? So she gets to 6.87.
I totally agree. That is something that, you know, we spend hours and hours and hours trying to make it look easy. Ariana here getting a 6.983 to finish out.
Right, because you're trying to power up and get all this energy and momentum, and at the same time, you can't lift up. So it is challenging. This is Elaine Su from California. She trains with Eagles under Master Jung Jin. Nice finishes here. Everything is clean.
Her side kicks are interesting. They're nice and high, really good extension, good alignment, but she almost spends more time in the retraction than she does in the kick itself. At the top, it just barely sticks and then comes right back down. I think if she could hold it just a half a second longer, that's really the only thing I have to say. I think her form is great. Yeah, nice use of both hands there going backwards. Again, we can't see the actual blocks, so having a good strong elbow thrust that we can see helps show the power.
And some core movement, right? Some core rotation in that last line. 7.43, big score.
Yeah, so we had
a high score, right?
Yeah, Jamie Hanna, I think, was second, and she has a 7.317 combined score in first place right now. But Elaine coming up here with an even higher score, that's 7.4, taking her time here. Not quite straight on that center line, but really nice tempo and freeze.
This is a nice line here. These side kicks are looking very aligned, and her first line was very nice. That first line of the Poomsae is really quite nice with that boomsogi going into those front kicks. She has a really nice clean finish to all the movements and then able to connect to the next one. So I imagine another nice high score here. Doesn't completely land on her spot, but a really nice technique.
Yeah, I think she's a good example of how to get a nice connection and a reach with your arms without making it look jerky or robotic. And an even bigger score here, 7.5.
That's going to put her in a great position. Of course, we have many good athletes coming up, and we don't know exactly where the scores are going to go. But for right now, she's in a really good spot, 7.467. And in the first place, as you can see here in our standing of the junior female preliminary round, she's followed by Jamie Aguilos, Jenna Doe, Zoe Adams, Ariana Amiri in 5th, Olivia Adams in 6th, Aaron Kwan in 7th, and Alyssa Manche in 8th place. So we're going to, after a few more athletes, will be up to a couple screens, and I think eventually we'll be like 3 or 4 screens worth of athletes, right, Miyako?
Yeah, so I think there's 59 athletes in this division. So for the semifinals, we're going to take half of that. So we'll go up to an even number, up to 60, and take the top 30 athletes.
So this is Tessa Lawson from California. She trains at QE Taekwondo under Master Robert Vargas. Maybe just a little more chamber on the side kick and a little bit more retraction, so it moves more from a swing to a really complete kick.
Yeah, and she seems to have control of it. She's not losing her balance at all. So just a tighter retraction, a little bit quicker coming down will just help that kind of smooth out the bar. But she seems to have good core and control during the motion itself. Right,
I think she's ready to move toward that. She gets a 6.43, but I think if she could iron out that side kick a little bit, definitely move up her score. Definitely have the strength for it. Oh, nice height on the starting front kick. This one too.
This front stance is maybe a little bit wide, double pivot there, and then that what is this called? Uppercut punch. Not quite getting up to chin. So make sure on that motion right before the side kick that gets all the way to chin height, not shoulder height. That could be a major. I don't know if the judges will take it, but on both sides, that could be minus 0.6. But there again are those nice, great front kicks to finish out her form.
Yeah, a little up and down movement on that last transition, and then that last line as well. So we just got to make sure we're staying level, grounded throughout the whole Poomsae. Once we start bumping up and down or, bouncing up and down between movements, it does impact our score. So 6.5 for Tessa Lawson. A little bit higher, so that's got to feel good, especially with Quebec. And she gets to 6.467.
Junbi.
So here's Tatum Nelson. She's from U.S. World Class Taekwondo in Washington, and her coach is Master Sam Leiter.
So she is looking up at her front kicks, but it almost looks like she's tilting her head in a quick jerky motion. So I think maybe, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, Coach Brand.
Right. So, back not too long ago, say just a couple months ago, the idea was to keep your head steady and just look up toward your foot, right, toward your kick. And then because of video online tournaments, there's been some change with some of the events, asking for the athletes to look up a little bit and show that you're looking up with a little bit of a head tilt. But we have to be subtle when we do that. And we have to make sure that we know from event to event what's really expected with those front kicks. Because tilting your head a lot can really throw off the aesthetic of the kick. Most tournaments historically have been like, keep your chin level, but look up with your eyes.
Yeah, so she might have gotten those tips from someone at her dojang, a coach, on, looking at the kick specifically. It does look like she's doing it on all of the front kicks, so it is intentional. So I think that, it shows something that's really great about Tatum is that she's applying new information very quickly and doing it consistently. So making sure that we do that, keep those knees nice and steady on those hand technique motions so there's no wiggles there. But I think this is a good form for her.
Her side kick leg looks just really pretty. But you know what I think it is? I think it's because her head tilts down before it tilts up. That's why it's more noticeable. So Tatum, maybe just keep it level. And if anything, just a small tilt, very subtle. And there you go. That's what's going to look good for you. But tilting down first, I know it's hard to control, but maybe watch it on the recording. 6.83 for the first one. Her side kick, extended leg, looks great. She gets a 6.750.
준비.
So this is Eunice Lee from New York, and she's coached by Massachusetts Kong. Nice height on these kicks. She has a great mentor for that with Suji Kong, one of the best all-time side kickers in the universe.
Right, 4-time back-to-back world champion in the Senior 1 division before she retired and moved to the U.S., now coaching out of the New Jersey area. So we should feel very lucky to have her here coaching some U.S. athletes.
Yeah, she's looking like, she's taken some of that, some of those lessons to heart for sure with the side kick. I remember one time at World Championship, people were taking Master Suji Kong's photo as she did side kick over and over and over again effortlessly. And it seemed to me she did maybe like 100 in a row. Maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe it was 50, but they were all so precise, effortless, and beautiful. It's very memorable for me to watch her do that after she was done competing. Those were in the early days of the World Championship. So Eunice gets a 7.13 for her first performance.
That's a good score. We did see Eunice in the Summer Poomsae. So glad that she's returning here for the Grand Slam. And it looks like she's bumped her score up as well. So hopefully she makes it through to the semis. This is looking nice and clean.
I think this form looks better than her first form.
She does have just a slight reach on the side kick where it swings up at the very end of it. But I think she'll continue working through that through Senior 1 because a lot of her hand techniques are really great. So just kind of evening everything out so it's strong and consistent throughout.
Right. She has good posture too. So when she finishes up, she got that punch extended in that front stand, she has a really upright, strong look. So she finishes that one with 7.07. I actually thought that was stronger than the choreo, so a little bit of a surprise for me on that one.
Here we are at USA Taekwondo's Grand Slam Online Poomsae competition, and I'm here with Alana Kemp. So you're chopping up with Jason and Alana here on our interviews portion of this Grand Slam competition. Alana, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I love it. I love it. Alana, this is a big, important competition for you guys. You have, elite competitors competing in these online formats. It's so much different than it was just a year ago. So what were some of the challenges that you find have kind of, basically kind of come up through these competitions when you've been competing in these online competitions? Because I know that you've done a few in the past, and now this really important USAT one. What are some of those challenges?
Well, with in-person real-life competitions, you have like the pressure of everyone watching you and competitors around you, and I think that really pushes your performance to be like the very best at that moment. But when having to record, there's like just you and the camera, and there's like, you can do another take, which I think is some bit of like a physical block or mental block on like how far you push yourself physically, because you can always do another take.
Yeah, that is fascinating to say that. You know, I've got a lot of people that have answered that question. We've asked it a few different athletes that way, but that's the first one that I've heard come up and say, look, it's different, but it's at some point the challenge is you don't push yourself as much. And I think that's a great point. So very interesting on your side, because I didn't think of it that way. As a former athlete, I never did anything online. So very, very interesting take on that. Okay, so you're competing full time, you're doing all of these online competitions, so you're super busy with Taekwondo and you're super busy with USA Taekwondo online Poomsae competitions, but you go to school and you've got to do other things. So give us some of your other hobbies, other things that you do in your life, Alana.
So I participate in a lot of clubs at schools, like honor clubs, volunteer clubs, but the one I'm most proud of is I'm the president of Sea Perch Club, which is an underwater robotics club.
Yeah, that's amazing to me. Okay, so I need more information because I don't know what an underwater robotics club is. So give me more, because you're the president of this elite club, but I don't know more about it. So help me out.
Yeah, so Sea Perch is an organization It's an organization that provides underwater robotics to lots of different schools. So students are come into teams of 2 to 4 people and create their own robots to compete in challenges and compete against each other. And there's regional competitions as well as national competitions. And so my team has actually won regional competitions in a few categories, and we've gone to nationals once.
Oh, that's fantastic. So do you have some kind of example? I mean, that's just, I'm enamored with this. So do you have some kind of examples for something that maybe we could see?
Yeah. So this is the design from this past year. And the theme was like underwater cleanup. And so this, we call them ROVs, remotely operated vehicles. This one is actually completely 3D printed. And you can see there's bobbers as well as motors. And we have to do a lot of electrical work too, because it's connected to a control box. And so teams can 3D print their robots as well as just make them out of PVC pipe and connect other things with them. So this is another model, which you can see PVC pipes connected with 3D printed parts.
That is fascinating. 3D printers printing robots for under the water. I just can't tell you how impressive that is. Alana, look, I just want to first tell you good luck in your competition coming up here on USA Taekwondo's Grand Slam Poomsae competition. It is online, so I know that you pushed yourself. I know that you're going to do great. Look, I look forward to seeing you in those live competitions, but I want to say good luck to the multi-talented, Alana Kim, and your form's coming up right now. So Poomsae by Alana Kim right here, right now. So you've been chopping up with Jason and Alana. Tell everybody, just send them off to your form. You say, go watch me now or anything like that. You do it.
Well, thank you for having me. And here I am up next.
I love it. Alana Kim.
This is Alana Kim, and she's from Virginia.
Stop.
She trains with U.S. Tigers.
I remember Alana from the summer of Poomsae as well, because one of her fun facts is that she likes to bake macaroons. Or I should say macarons, the French version, not the coconut version. They're very different. So nice to see her here. Macarons, and not the French President Emmanuel Macron. All very different. So nice to see another Virginia athlete here, Alana, coming to us.
Really nice reach on her sidekicks.
Yeah, she's looking really strong. Powerful here on this last bar.
Hello.
Nice big dojang as well.
That's what I was going to say. Good job, Master Cam. Really nice heading for this competition. Just get 7.2 for that performance of choreo. Now on to Tibet.
Stop.
She's doing a really good job of having power come through the video. We don't always see that. We've talked before about how your power just looks diminished on screen, but I am getting a ton of power from her.
Paro.
A little, heel pop here and there. Tried to get back to that spot on the last move. But really nice job. I think good power throughout, consistent, just keeping the legs stable while you're doing so much power with your arm techniques will help. But a massive 7.4 in the second form.
So what I admired about her form is she's trying to extend those stances. She's trying to really push it, and sometimes that does throw us off, but after a period of time, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable. So I would say stick with that, really extend them, make those stances your highlight, and then those long extended front kicks. Those also look really good. Is this Onwin Rhodes? Or is this the Onwin Rhodes from Colorado, from U.S. Taekwondo Center in Aurora under Coach Sean Jung?
I see a lot of athletes with a similar way that the side kicks to and Onwin's doing them. After the side kick, the body comes up slowly after the foot has already touched the ground in the front stance. So as you bring that side kick in, you want your chest to come up as well. So then your torso is straight up and you just put that foot on the ground without any slow lean back up of the body as you go into that strike.
And she gets to 6.2. So I think the challenge for her was the alignment. When you start your kick and then your shoulders overturn, then it's kind of hard to recover from that in any balanced kind of way. So athletes kind of fight that. Like, how am I going to get out of this? I went to align, but then I twisted too much, and now look where I am. Geez, what am I going to do? I don't know if you've ever been in that position, Miyako, but I have. So let's see how she does on this one right here. This is a little bit better, and I think it might be because she's already starting in the aligned position, so she just has to hang with it. That one was a little overturned, but she was able to save it. So frustrating when you get like that. It's like, now what am I supposed to do? I'm just like stuck.
I think I'm not consistent enough to fall out the same way I fall out every single direction every time is a different way. So yeah, just doing a lot of drills and trying to get it consistent to where it's in control, in alignment is something we're all still working on.
For sure, every day. So she gets 6.17.
Nice consistent 2 scores there.
She gets 6.183. So Sean Jung's her coach, so I know that he can help her with that for sure, because he's been working on side kick drills for years. So it's just a matter of coming up with a strategy. This is Brooke Whiteleather, cool name, from So's Taekwondo, under Master Derek So. Really nice height. She's got a lot of potential here. She looks like she has the ability to kick really high if she wants to.
She has pretty good control, but it doesn't look like there's much power in her hand techniques. So I think if she can just click, twist the hand techniques, finish the punches a little bit stronger, and a little bit of this natural sound there at the end of that 8 count.
Right. She really needs to pull that non-striking hand back as fast as she can in order to get the power in the striking hand. So she's got to learn how to coordinate those two together, and it should be, seen some very high scores. So right now she gets a 6.67. So she finishes a technique in the right spot. The hand techniques are finishing in the right spot, but it's just a matter of how they got there and how much power they have.
Right.
시작.
So this is a challenge for many athletes, right? Because they want to place the hand technique out there.
And you want to keep everything else in the right
Wow.
place. You don't want to
Nice
over-rotate.
Right. She's doing a lot right here. It's just a matter of executing that power.
Yeah, I think if she can bump the power up, a couple of the transitions, she has a heel pivot or the heel pops up or what it is here, heel
Ooh,
pop.
like right there.
Yeah. And the front stances, I think she's tall. She could actually stand to lengthen the front stances just a little bit more.
시작. 차렷.
So how do you make sure your heel doesn't pop up? You just have to make sure you shift your weight before you make that turn. Just shift your weight, and then you'll be able to turn on the ball of your foot. She gets a 6.7 for that second Poomsae. And finishes with a 6.683. So here's our standings for the junior female preliminary round, with Elaine Sue still in first, followed by Jamie Agalos, Alana Kim, Jenna Doe, Eunice Lee, Zoe Adams, Ariana Amiri, and Olivia Adams now in the top 8 spots. But that can definitely change over time. And luckily, we're not just looking for the top 8, we're looking for the top 50%.
Which for this division will be the top 30 because we have 59 athletes. So we add 1 and divide by half.
준비.
So this is Francesca Mom from Oregon. She's with Happy Valley Family Martial
시작.
Arts under Master Miki Song. So for me on my screen, this one's a little bit tilted up on the right-hand side of the screen. So as athletes, we just have to make sure, I don't know if that's just my screen.
It's very
but just
minimal.
making sure
I
it's
do
level.
see it. Yeah. But it's a great backdrop. I love the flags, the sign. Those bars are so helpful for sidekick drills. I'm sure Master Minky has her practice a lot of sidekick drills on those bars. She has pretty good reach on the side kicks, but some of her hand techniques are a little bit small.
A little more work on the preparation for those strikes on the back line, making sure she gets plenty of volume. That'll go a long way. So Francesca Mom ends up with a 7.03, so a good score for right now. So Miyako, let's talk about the points. So we had a couple of points, couple of events where athletes could get points. The first one was, we've had the Summer Poomsae and we had the NTTA, right? The NTTA event was a 4.0, so it was worth 40 points to the first place finisher. And then the second one we had was Summer Poomsae, and that was an 8.0, so worth 80 points to the first place finisher. How about this one?
Right, this is double the Summer Poomsae. This is a 16.0 tournament. And of course, the easy way to remember how many points that is just multiply it by 10. So the first place winner here of this tournament gets 160 points. So this is by far the largest tournament for points, but there will be more in the coming year. So make sure that you join. It's all about consistency, competing, being consistent, and learning each time. Francesca, we did see her, I think, in the Summer of Poomsae here, now getting a 7.07 on the second form for a combined 7.050.
We've seen quite a leap for many of the athletes being able to, look at their settings, get some better lighting, get some better, whatever it might be that their first one was just lacking. They were able to fix it during the second one, and many of these athletes are still competing at home. And it doesn't matter where you compete. There's no advantage to competing in a club versus competing outside in a park or anywhere else. This is Charlotte McKittrick from Colorado, also training under Coach Sean Jung at U.S. Taekwondo Center Aurora.
She has really good reach on her side kicks, but she's standing a little bit tall in her stances. So just bending your knees, sinking into those stances a little bit.
And maybe a little bit more chamber and retraction on the side kick, so it doesn't look as though it's just, body tipping over and swinging that leg up. And she gets a 6.47.
시작.
Couple of heel pops in the transitions there in the first bar.
Right. Sometimes as we're going to do that parry motion in Quebec, our foot comes through kind of in an in and out way. We just want to step straight forward with the step as we're doing that hand technique, so it doesn't look like an in and out kind of half circular motion with the feet and the hands. Does that make sense, Miyako?
Yeah, definitely.
바로 차렷 경례.
I think also maybe adding a little bit more of an aim on the reach, just a little bit further out after the front kicks before the double punches, just for the visual contrast. And a slightly higher score for Charlotte is 6.57 on the second form.
And finishing up with a 6.517.
준비.
And here we have Ariana Ramos from Flying V Martial Arts in Illinois,
시작.
and coached by Vincent Viena and Harold Martinez. Nice high kick to start off with. Oh, good control on those side kicks.
And good
I'll
power.
say just tuck
too.
those arms in. Yeah, good power. Like sometimes we throw so much power that we have to make sure that our arms are under control as we're doing that. Sometimes they kind of fly out a little bit to the side, or at least our elbows do. Wow, with that perspective, it almost looked like she's kicking really high to the ceiling.
Yeah.
바로
She's got a lot of potential to throw a lot of power. And that last step, it almost looked like you threw her off a little bit, off of her balance, but she can really get more grounded and then really let that power come out. So she gets a 6.77 to start off.
시작.
Little double pivot, as you say, little pre-turn and then the pivot. You got to make sure we wait.
So many athletes are just not quite reaching the chin height on that side kick bar with the uppercut.
Oh, nice front kick. It's all these heel pops, right? So go back and look
Hello.
at the video and ask yourself, how many times did my heel come off the floor
차렷.
when I went to make a turn from one
Finish.
side to the next, and then start eliminating those in a systematic way. You will see your score magically get higher. You get to 6.9 on the second Poomsae.
And a lot of that is just the accuracy, right? So if we get that accuracy up to a 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, that's when we start hitting those sevens where we need to make the cutoff. But a 6.83 combined score for Ariana.
And this is Haley Huynh from Colorado at U.S. Taekwondo Center.
I think I remember Haley from the Summer Poomsae because she was the only, well, not all the athlete, the only athlete, but one of the few athletes who went at a diagonal to try and fit in the space that she has, which is her garage.
Yeah, that's right. So I say go for it. As long as we can see the whole body. And right now on the screen, it might appear a little bit blurry. So we just have to make sure that we have the right technology, right? Recording.
Right, the right quality. How many frames per second? And the new iPhones, you know, they have really great video quality. I think her top psychic line was like almost at a different angle, but you can't really tell. So I'm not sure. The 6.23 on her first form.
Yeah, I think for this event, it was like supposed to be recorded at what, 30 frames?
At minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes it a little bit hard to see quite where the techniques are finishing. I think these are all a little bit off.
Right. I think that as I'm watching it, if I squint, I can see it a lot better. That's what I'm trying to do, and it looks pretty clear. So just try squinting a little bit, and you can appreciate it more. Oh, it looked like she had an extra punch in there.
Yeah, or the wrong hand finished.
Right.
Yeah, so I think just a couple cleaning up hand techniques, and the accuracy will go up higher, which should help. Because the first score was 6.23. So here on the second form, she gets a 7.03. So a huge jump on the second form.
That's great. That's a great score. So she finishes up with a 6.633. So this is Abigail McCormick from California. She trains with Taekwondo kids.
Is this their house? This is an amazing house.
Yeah, it is.
It's like atrium room here.
Right, that's beautiful. And I'm wondering, where did all the furniture have to go?
Right.
Did it go out there on the patio? Looks like a beautiful outside space.
Nice reach.
Nice reach. Yeah, really good reach. Just don't fall off the edge over here. No problem, lots of space.
A better horse stance here on the second side. The first one, sometimes when you go into that single knife hand block punch, as you do the punch, your knees start to cave in the direction that you're turning for the punch. You really want to keep those knees nice and open and stay straight parallel to the front. And just let the shoulders turn the core, but not the hips and the knees.
It's pretty good here with a 7.17. So many of these athletes have to remember to not pre-turn their front foot when their back foot is coming forward. You just got to keep that in place and see how she does as she did. Oh, wow. Nice front kick. Yeah, look at that. Boom. That looks really great on this form. So you can see she turns that front foot and then she steps with the other one. So we want to make sure that front foot stays in place as the rear foot comes forward.
Yeah, that back knee caving a little bit on the hand techniques before the side kick. The cool thing that Abigail does is she's a self-taught artist who focuses in digital art and animation.
That's amazing. So her last two lines were probably the best of both Poomsaes there. So she had a really strong finish to Quebec. So she got a 7.17 for that first one, choreo. And now for Quebec, 7.27, even better. So she's in good position here, going to be over the score of 7, which gives everybody a little bit of a relief here. At least at this point. We have quite a few more athletes to go. I think 36 more or so. Is that right?
59. There's 60 athletes. Yeah.
Wow, this is India Rocky from Colorado, another athlete from U.S. Taekwondo Center training with Coach Sean Jung.
Those front kicks are flying up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've only had 8 athletes so far out of 23 who've broken a 7 or higher. And of course, now we're starting to get into the athletes that do have a ranking. They've gone to tournaments, they have seeding points. So we do expect the scores to go somewhat up, but how high, we don't know. And that will determine what that cutoff is for the semis. we'll take the top 30 athletes into the semis. And again, right now, so far, only about 8 or so athletes with a 7 or higher out of 23.
Right. These scores are all stacked up right on top of each other. There's no big gaps for sure. So Indy gets a 7.0 for choreo.
시작.
I think if she could dissociate her shoulders from the hips on that bar coming forward so that it doesn't look so choppy, smooth their hand techniques into the punch and make sure that it's in alignment to the center line on the punch. But nice connection.
It's challenging for a lot of athletes. Really challenging, right, to move the upper body but keep the hips a little bit more stable during that rotation. It's interesting. Many times she has really good turns, and some of the times that heel's popping up. So I think she's on the right track. She just has to get consistent with that to boost her score up a little bit more. And in this case, she might have gotten like a 0.3 higher score, which is a lot in this division. So she ends up with a 7.03 for that one. It finishes with a 7.017. It's getting pretty tight. Look at the standings here now, with Elaine Sue still in first place, followed by Jamie Hanna Agalus, Alana Kim, Abigail McCormick, Jenna Doe, Eunice Lee, Francesca Mom, and India Rocky now in that 8th place spot. But we're going to continue to look at the rest of the standings here. Of course, we're looking for the top, is it 30? 30, right, Miyako?
Yep, top 30. But we've only had 24, so these are all the athletes that have gone so far, 24 out of 59. So as we get closer to 40 or so, then we'll have a better idea of what that cutoff is going to be to make it into the semis.
This is Yul Kwan from California. She trains with martial arts and is here at the Team M Performing Center, I'll say. So doing a good job on that first line.
It's hashtag the garage, Coach Brand. It's right there on the wall.
Right.
It says so. And they have so many great posters, I recognize from a lot of the university tournaments, the Bali poster there from Worlds in 2013, 13th World University Champion Tournament. I think that was in China. So a lot of fun posters there around their training space, which has to be encouraging. Yul Kwan here showing good power throughout, but I think maybe with all that power, we lose some of the softness and some of the draws. So just making sure that there is that contrast.
Nice score though, 7.23.
시작.
Nice reach on the side kick.
Yeah, leaning forward just a little bit.
Yeah, to the open side, to her chest
Yeah.
side, just falling a little bit to the inside.
And even coming forward and back there, I don't know if her stances are a little wide, but it looks like her body weight shifts from side to side instead of coming straight forward and back. So just watching that, making sure that it's clean and smooth coming forward. But really great power coming through. And a 7.23 on the first form is a good score so far here for this division. So let's see the second form.
7.27, even better. That's fun. So Yul Kwan's going to finish up with a 7.250.
QB.
Up next, we have Hannah Noble from California with Manila Taekwondo, as well as the Team M Community Poomsae program. She's coached by Henry Cruz, as well as An Hui and Long Wen.
And Hannah really, I would say, is known for her freestyle, if I can say that. She has a lot of accomplishments, been on teams, traveled to China for the Wuxi World Cup to do individual freestyle 12 to 17. So here she is doing traditional Poomsae, recognized Poomsae, a little bit slow on some of the draws, really taking her time, making sure that things are accurate. Here's an interesting fact for you, Coach Brand. She says she likes drinking milk tea, not boba. For the first time, we get the milk tea part.
That's great. So this is Hannah Noble from California. It's really interesting seeing the 7.13. So sometimes our power doesn't come through on the video as much as it would in person. I think this is a case of that, where Hannah Noble has this, power she's trying to push at the end of the hand techniques, end of the movement there. And some are able to come across and some look like they need to be turned up a little bit. And I think that's just the video. I think she actually
바로. 자연. 경례.
That was Hannah Noble. She had a 7.13 on the first form, but a drop here on the second form to a 6.7. So I think that's a drop in both the accuracy and presentation.
She ends up with a 6.917. That's a pretty good score in this division so far. We'll have to see how it plays out, but for now, it's a pretty good score. This is Rebecca Ponte from Nevada. She trains at Spirit Taekwondo under her coach, Yasmin Brown.
She almost had control of that second double side kick until the retraction fell out, had just a little bit of an early pivot out. But I think we'll see some nice high side kicks here in this upcoming bar right here.
Well, front kick was great. A little bit. Nice extension.
Yeah, really nice. Rebecca, one of her hobbies to do outside of Taekwondo is to collect record albums. So we have a vintage fan in Rebecca.
Nice.
She gets a 7.1 on her first form.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of vinyl she's listening to.
시작.
Nice control here on these first two lines.
That was pretty good. I think she loses some connections in some of the bars, so it's. I feel like the presentation would go up a little bit more if she could connect them, soften out a few things, but the accuracy is going to be pretty good. Yeah, so very solid form. I think just a little more connection, work on the presentation will help boost that presentation score. But a 7.1.
7.1.
Yeah.
This this is Vivian
Okay.
Vo.
Come next.
She's from Georgia and trains at Kwangchung Martial Arts
Chuẩn bị.
Institute under her coach Dong Huynh.
Oh.
Ooh, nice reach.
And clean hand techniques too. I like both the double knife hands and then that middle block. There's power coming through on every single
Look
technique.
at that. Nice volume. She's got really nice long limbs and she's really
Yeah.
highlighting that volume.
Oh. She takes a very diagonal approach on that push down block there rather than straight down. She almost goes from sideways down diagonally. Different, but I really like her form so far.
Really strong. And even though she's tall, she doesn't have any problem
Wow.
getting down into those lower horse stances and really looking kind of extended the nose as much as possible. The 747, as far as her power, boy, she is able to throw it. She's one of those athletes who's a little bit more mature, maybe closer to that senior division as well. Yeah, I could be wrong, but she looks like she has a ton of muscle strength.
Yeah, so she's 17 this year. This is her last year in this
Yeah.
junior division. So she will be in that senior one division just, next month in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I think
She's
she's going to
ready.
do great. Yeah, she looks really strong, clean, nice
Little
lines.
up and down, little bit
Fall out of that
off
one.
there, but little up and down on some of the transitions from side to side. So just maybe level some of those out. Let's see here on this last turn. More level here, so good job.
Wow.
Wow, she is very strong.
Yeah.
So.
Vivian
her-
Vo,
Hey.
very
come
good
back.
job.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Vivian next year in the senior one division.
Yeah,
Fun fact for
especially
her.
because you're not
Because
gonna
I'll be
compete with
out.
anyone when
I
you're
won't
out there.
have to go against her.
Another 747.
So 2 great scores for Vivian Vo. Is that the high score? Let me see.
I
시작.
think it
Oh, I think
might
tied.
be. Well, we have a
Tied.
7.633 up there, right? With Luiora Aliosa. Oh wait, I'm looking at the cadets from yesterday. I have a whole long list here, and I'm looking way up there. Yeah, so we have. Is she in first now?
I think she's tied for first. But this is
Awesome.
Claire Yee, and she is like, hold the phone because look at my sidekicks.
Yeah, really nice control. She trains in California here with Just Taekwondo under Master Justin Wang, former 9-time U.S. team member on the World Championship team.
Her coach.
Right.
Yeah, I think maybe I
Follow.
think I remember this space from the summer of Poomsae. I think the mats are new, but I remember the bookcase over there on the left.
And she's at 7.33. Yeah, those almost look like the Just Taekwondo mats that she's using. They're not currently able to use club space, so she may have borrowed these.
시작.
Wow.
Nice front kick, little bit up and down motion as we talked about with some of the other athletes, staying level on this line.
A little bit slower tempo here. We're not getting the quick connections or quick transitions, but everything is really clean and accurate. A slight lean forward in the torso on those front stances.
You can only connect as much as you can stay in balance, right? So she's trying to
Right.
pick the pace that works best for her today. Maybe tomorrow will look a little bit different,
바로.
but
Right,
today
and as
this
long
is
as
what
you're
feels good.
consistent throughout the whole form, you can sort of take a tempo,
그래요.
that works for
Feel
you.
it.
There's no only one tempo that's good. Not everybody goes super fast. So I think she looked very confident, comfortable with that tempo, and a good score here on the second
Jeez.
form.
Ooh, scores are starting to come up.
They are.
7.43 for Claire Yee.
준비.
This is Megan Cho from Illinois.
Stop.
She trains at I Tiger. It's like the sign right behind her with Master Napoleon Kim. Oh,
Quick power.
yeah.
So here we see her also looking up at the front kicks. And Coach Brand, we are only halfway through this division. The scores are already
Oh my goodness.
almost to the mid sevens. And
Wow.
this is Megan. She looks so strong. Whew.
Yeah. Look at that. She likes to hang them up there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're kicking straight vertical, with gravity not being able to pull it off, it's just straight up. You can just hang out there in that vertical side kick.
True. I have to take your word for that.
서로.
Not that I know.
So this is Megan Cho from I Tiger Martial Arts. Huge score, 7.67.
That is a jump above our tied for first right now at 7.467.
시작.
Wow, she's getting a lot of power. Really trying to reach, but falling a little bit to the inside of that kick. She's really good here on this line. Maybe she can just be a little bit more patient on those last front kicks to get a more vertical look, so that her posture looks nice and clean. But wow, what a performance. That's Megan Cho from iTiger Martial Arts with a huge performance, 7.7. And this is nuts right now. This score is just crazy, 7.683, and I can't wait to see the standings again. Here they are. Look at this. Megan Cho now in first place, followed by Vivian Vo, Elaine Su, Claire Yi, Jamie Aglos, Alana Kim, Yo Kwan, and Abigail McCormick now in those top 8 spots. And I'm just talking about those top 8, but I really shouldn't. We're going to go all the way to the top 30 in this round. That's going to be the cutoff, the top 30. And we haven't had, enough opportunity to see all the athletes in the division. We're only about maybe halfway through now, so there's a lot more to come. We don't really know how this is all going to shake out right now. This is the standings up to the number 24 spot, but we'll have one more screen coming up. And so we have our top 30 here. And we have a ton to go, and already at a 7.683. This is Destinina Darcy from New Jersey. She trains at Team East with Master Suji Kong. We've already had a couple athletes from Ms. Dojang in the division with strong performances, and she looks really clean. Maybe keeping those eyes straight ahead. It almost looks like she's looking down or blinking downward. Something's happening there during those front kicks. You just got to keep those eyes straight forward or maybe a little bit upward, kind of like you're doing on the side kick there. Nice strong finish for Destinina Darcy with choreo. And she gets a 7.33. That's a nice solid score so far in this division. So that should put her in a safe position. But again, we're only about halfway through, so it's hard to tell.
Sure.
So really nice extension in this form, both the front kicks and the side kicks. She seems to do best when she's not coming directly toward the camera, and I wonder if that's just a little bit of camera shyness, because as she comes toward the camera looking in that direction, she tends to either look down or looks like a long blink maybe. So maybe just a little bit more aware of that camera facing her when she comes forward. So she gets a 7.27 on that second form. And finishing with a nice solid 7.3. Up next, we have Christina Threkel from South Carolina. She trains with Master Kim's world-class Taekwondo. Nice high reach on that first side kick. Oh, and about the same. That one looks really great. Oh, I wonder if she could just hold that up for a moment longer. Her kicks are on fire. Yeah, that's definitely the highlight. So maybe a little bit more contrast in some of the hand techniques. Like some of the preparation looks tense. So maybe just relaxing the preparation part of the hand technique will go a long way in showing more contrast. Yeah, just a little bit more softening at the beginning of those hand techniques, and then finishing with that power right at that last moment. But those kicks, whoa. She gets a 7.1. That seems about right. Look at these nice high kicks.
Yeah, she has a really nice freeze at the end of her motions, especially kind of at the end of segments. It just all clicks together really nicely. She doesn't quite yet have the softness in some of the draws. But a nice reach on those hand techniques.
Sure.
That nice big 7.4. So I think that presentation from those kicks are really helping her out. And if she could just increase the contrast on the hand techniques, wow. She finishes with a 7.250.
준비.
Up next, we have Autumn Tolley from Illinois, with
시작.
Flying V Martial Arts and the Team M Community Program.
So she's definitely reaching on these side kicks. I would say it's about 90% controlled. So the body just needs to come up a little bit quicker after the kick so that it kind of lands a little softer. Right now, it's landing just a tad harsh. So that control, the retraction would help her a little bit. But she has good power coming through on the hand techniques. And so I think if Autumn, you just soften up some of those motions, get the body up quicker after the side kicks, that'll help the overall look and the presentation of the Poomsae. But a 7.1 on the first form, which is good, and that matches Christina, who went just before her.
시작.
Yeah, so here we have the side kicks again. She's just a little bit slow to get the body up.
She's just trying to push up, you know, trying to really make the most effort to get as high as possible. And then at the end, it's hard to hold on to.
Also, sometimes I just don't think about getting my body up fast. I think I have to actively think, body up, body up, body up. And I say that to myself during my form, get the body up. Because otherwise, you know, I'm thinking about my leg, I'm thinking about the next stance. But if I can actively think about it, it can happen. But it sometimes takes that extra focus.
She gets a 7.03. And then finishing with a 7.067. So this is Michelle Ortiz Sanchez from Oregon. She's with U.S. World Class Taekwondo and trains with Sam Leiter. Nice hand technique. Following that and trying to maybe go for a little bit more connection. Now, I remember Abigail Strabach, right, with those fierce spheres, those double fierce spheres, but here's my nominee for a single fierce sphere because you get a lot of power showing through that hair styling. It's kind of smart, right? Like right at the end showing that little pop.
Yeah, I don't know how she did her hair to get that. My bun is so tight. I don't have any of that looseness. But that must be better. I get headaches from my hair. So, Michelle, you're going to have to teach us your hairstyle ways. After the Summer Poomsae, we learned all about your hand lettering and your calligraphy work. So now we need the tips on the hair.
Right. Definitely my nominee for fiercest single sphere. So she gets a 6.93 on that first one. Choreo. And now off to Tibet.
And she has a lot of potential here, I think. She has a lot of really great qualities, but needs to smooth out between some of the draws. A couple heel pops.
Right. It's definitely the contrast. I think that area right there, she gets a little bit more attention. It'll go a long way.
But side kicks are high and strong and clean. Good retraction.
And her hand technique accuracy is pretty good. It's just, again, like finishing in the right spot. It's just like, how did he get there? Like, how did that preparation look relaxed compared to that clean, powerful finish? So she got a 6.93 for choreo, and here, higher score, nice, 7.07 for Tebek. So she's going to finish with a solid 7.0. So this is a Maya Rocky. So is her sister India Rocky? Is that
must be.
So she trained in Colorado too at the U.S. Taekwondo Center in Aurora with Coach Sean Jung. So I think it was India that got a pretty good score.
Yeah, India finished with a 7.017 combined score.
Mm-hmm.
But here, so Amaya, actually, we don't see a ton of athletes looking up at the side kick, but she makes it clear here, looking up, then the side kick goes.
Right. So we need to be careful with that. You know, we don't want to look up too soon. A couple athletes did that with front kicks too, like their head was tilted before the kick even began.
Yeah, so I think it's okay, but Amaya, you're looking just a little bit early before the kick, and you want to look up, look in the direction, but then look up only when the kick goes up. I had to physically do that as I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I saw that. 6.83. So I'm watching Miyako Yerick's technique from her commentary cave out there on the East Coast.
Stop.
Walking through choreo.
Nice high front kicks. And I'm looking at some of the fun facts that were submitted. And I have both the Summer of Poomsae notes, I have the Grand Slam notes, and Amaya submitted that she likes, or she, outside of Taekwondo, works as a lifeguard and likes to swim. But her sister India did not submit fun facts. So India, next time, Amaya's beating you on the fun facts here.
Way to start a fight.
차렷. 경례.
Okay, so Maya got a 6.87. She's looking to bump up that score, and she gets a 6.83. It's challenging to get a higher score on Tibet for sure. So she's going to end up with a 6.833.
준비. 샷.
This is Chloe Ng from California, and she trains at Koo's Martial Arts as well as Team M's Community Poomsae program. So we can see her here in the hashtag garage. I guess it's hashtag the garage. I keep saying the hashtag garage. And I saw some of the videos from the Wynn brothers while they were recording these. They showed some on Facebook where it was cold out there in California. It was like, I don't know, 50 or 60 degrees or something. So their athletes are outside in jackets, and they're walking around with little portable heaters and masks on while they're, you know, outside. So it's nice to see that they were able to all be together and record here in the garage, even though it was cold outside and COVID, so we're locked down. So nice to see here Chloe from California. On her first form, she gets a 7.10. And as a reminder, again, 59 athletes in this division. We're going to take the top 30 into the semifinals. Chloe is the 36th athlete out of 59. So in a few, we'll start getting a good idea of what that cutoff is going to be. But I think at this point, it's probably getting close to about a 7. So we'll have to keep looking at that ranking board, the standings, when they come out to see what the cutoff is going to be. Chloe doing a good job taking her time going through here. Again, not rushing. And she got a 7.1 on choreo. Tebek, I think, maybe looked a little bit more comfortable, really kind of settled into the second form, but just a little bit lower. So a 6.93, that accuracy, I think, just dropped a little bit. So she gets a combined score of 7.017, and here are the standings. So Megan Cho in first, Vivian Vo, Elaine Su, Claire Yi in those first 4 spots. Here are the first 12. So far in these 12, we are up to a 7.1. And here's the next 12 scores here, all the way. So we have a few ties here. I'm looking at it. So when there is a tie, like between Michelle Ortiz Sanchez and Zoe Adams with a 7, then you go to the presentation, which is that left column of the white score. So the 4.0 Michelle got gives her that 18th spot over the 19th spot. And we're up to 36 scores here. 30 right now is a 6.633, but we still have 13 or so more athletes to go. So that'll determine what that cutoff is going to be.
준비. 시작.
This is Allison de Guzman.
He trains in California with Elite Taekwondo and Team M Community Poomsae Program. So she's coached by Jeff Avila as well as Anhui and Long Wen. And the Poomsae belt's coming off. That's a bummer, right in the middle of the performance.
So she had nice volume of motion on her hand techniques, but didn't quite get an increasing speed. So the speed of the hand techniques was kind of one speed, and you want it to get faster and stronger at the ends. But the volume at the last bar at least was nice, and she gets a 7.0 on the first form.
시작.
Ooh, staying nice and level throughout that line. That's great. Punch is a little off center.
I do love this backdrop though, with the plants and the curtains on the door. It's just very pretty.
Right, it's a wonderful space. She's lucky. You know, so many parents have been so supportive throughout all these online events, completely changing their households, living rooms, family rooms. We have no idea where all the furniture went in these places. Probably slightly off camera, all stacked up in the corner. Allison got a 7.0 for the first Poomsae. Look at that, nice little bump on the second one, 7.07. So she's gonna finish with a 7.033.
3.
Up next, we have Irene Ho from California. She trains at the U.S. Taekwondo Center under Master Ho-Jun Park.
So I see those staffs on the wall there. This is a garage. We can see the door on the left. So maybe she does. I know that the U.S. Taekwondo Center out in Colorado, they do demo team. I've seen them compete at nationals before. So I don't know if Irene is part of that team, but weapons are really cool. There's not a national team spot for weapons, but it's a really cool division, really fun to do in demo team. One of my favorite things that I did in Taekwondo or martial arts when I was growing up was different kind of weapons. So nice to see that. And she also says one of her accomplishments in Taekwondo is getting a 540 hook kick. So hopefully some demo team experience or freestyle in her future, maybe. Great to see her here with that choreo.
So Irene gets a 6.53 for the first Poomsae. It's really nice that she has that dedicated training space in the garage. Maybe a little bit chilly out there now in Colorado.
Hopefully they have space heaters. So her back foot was pivoting a little early as she came forward. Overall, transitions were pretty clean. He'll stay down for most of the time. I think just getting a little more comfortable, kind of sinking into the stances, a little more power will help the presentation go up.
So she ends up with 6.83 for Taebaek. That's nice. When you do the first Poomsae and you get a score 6.53 and then you jump up 0.3.
Yeah, that's a big jump there.
She gets a 6.683.
준비.
So next we have Yuri Min from
시작.
California. She trains with Team Kim Bo-yeon.
Ooh,
nice
those
leap.
side
You see
kicks.
that? Oh, that was nice.
So she has a nice natural look up on the front kicks.
Right, a little wide on the front stances, so maybe a little bit more narrow coming through. Wow, that is.
She really dips low though. Watch how low her torso goes here.
Oh. She tries to go fast, get it all done real quick, and recover.
That's a lot of tension though on those hips to push your body down that far. So hopefully, you know, in the coming years, keep working on those side kicks so that you don't have to dip as low, but you can keep the height. Because it's just so much pressure on those hips. The grinding over the years will start to, you'll feel it in a couple years.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one of our U.S. team members, a junior member, she was 7.13 to start off. He did so many side kicks. He trained every single day on side kicks. I said, well, how long do you think your hips are going to last? And he said, I don't know, maybe 2 more years or so.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, you're way too young. How about take a little bit more care? Don't necessarily need to work side kicks every single day the same way.
Right, there's a lot of strength work you can do around it, tightening the glutes, working on the core. There's so many other parts to the side kick, not just the flexibility and the reach of the kicking leg, but the base leg.
Right.
So
I don't think you mean tightening the glutes, you mean strengthening the glutes,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
you can activate them when you're doing the kick.
Exactly.
Because I can tighten my glutes, I just have to go for a run. They'll come back nice and tight. Okay, so
But Fury just did a great job. That was a really nice one.
again, she's from California, trains with Team Kim Boyan. She got a 7.13 for the first one choreo, and now 7.17, nice little bump. I can't wait to see these standings again. Let's get to 7.150.
We're back. I'm Jason Poos, and this is the 2020 USA Taekwondo Online Poomsae Grand Slam, and I've got a special guest, Sky Mitchell. Sky, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
It's my pleasure, really. And so, Sky and I've been talking a little bit off, but now we're going to kind of talk on air. A couple quick questions for you first and foremost. Online competitions, left and right now. It's sort of the norm, if you will. But our norm is our in-person competitions. And in fact, you know, USA Taekwondo is hosting Grand Slam, state championships, national championships, you know, all those things. And I really miss a lot of things about the live competitions. But what do you miss from live competitions?
Personally, I miss the adrenaline that I get when I'm about to compete. I feel it really helps me do my best performance in front of a live audience.
Yeah, I miss the adrenaline of watching you guys have adrenaline. So, I mean, I totally get it, because that is one thing that's got to be missing from this recorded session, is that adrenaline of, you've got to get it right the first time. All those people, you know, sitting in the stands watching you, cheering you on. So, yeah, it's a big miss. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It really is a big miss, and I miss it as well. Just even as a spectator, getting to watch you guys and commentate on some of your competitions, I miss it as well. Okay, so we're competing online all the time. We were competing in person a lot, but you also do other things outside of Taekwondo. Can you kind of tell us what you do when you're not competing?
When I'm not competing, I also am on a competitive snowboard team. And that means that I compete in events like slopestyle, I compete in rail jam, and halfpipe.
That is unbelievable. I first of all, I snowboard too. I love it. I've been snowboarding since I was about 25. And I did get on the rail once, and I fell really hard and hurt myself, so I'm not doing that anymore. But so not everybody knows what slope style is. So tell us, what is slope style when you're competing in that event?
Slopestyle is a combination of rails and boxes and also jumps. So you do both.
Yeah, she's flying down the mountain, hitting those boxes, then hitting the rails, and just doing flips on your snowboard, things like that. That's amazing. That's unreal. I'm so impressed. I think that's really, I mean, I know you're an elite athlete because you're an elite Taekwondo athlete doing Poomsae, but to be on a competitive snowboard team, that's just icing on the cake to me. So that's really impressive. Sky, thank you so much for spending time with me today on this interview session for Chopping It Up with Jason and Sky. But you're about to come up, so tell everybody about who's getting ready to go.
Watch me in the junior individual competition.
준비. 시작.
This is Sky Mitchell from California, also a Team Kim Boyan. You mentioned, was it a couple minutes ago, you said we had so many athletes, but we have 20 more athletes in the division, right?
40 to 60. Yep, 20 more.
Okay. I may have misheard. I thought you said 13. I was like, oh, I think we have more than that.
Well,
But,
Coach Brand, I'm not so great at math. It's not my strongest subject, especially when I do it in my head. So I think I missed 10 and it was 23.
It was close. It was very close.
So this is Sky though. So we just saw Buri, her teammate here, go. Now we have Sky in the same location, slightly different style, a little bit quicker and lots of hit power.
Yeah, locking in on the back line. Sometimes it's hard to show power. Athletes have a challenging time showing power on that back line of choreo, but man, she really locked it in. She gets a 6.9.
시작.
Really pretty front kicks. Heel popping up on those transitions though. Stance a little wide, maybe a little bit short.
Yeah, she was really opening up her shoulders to come forward, like full 180 to the side. So maybe you don't need quite that much open rotation because it is going to start to throw your balance on the stance off. A little bit wide there as well.
Right. I think that's just her natural, that's where she's feeling good. Might just need to bring it in a little bit and lengthen it out a little bit.
셔. 차렷. 경례.
So that's Sky Mitchell from California with Team Kim Boyan. Wow, look at that, 7.23.
Big jump.
Huge jump. Just like what Irene Ho was able to do a couple minutes ago. So she gets a 7.067.
준비.
This is Amber Carlson from Colorado, training at US Taekwondo Center with Master Ho-Jun Park.
So she has a couple of double pivots on some of those bigger transitions, but she's taking a quick tempo. So maybe if she slowed down a little bit unprepared for the transitions, we could get rid of some of those double pivots.
Right, so actually, Miyako, go ahead and describe what a double pivot looks like for our viewers.
Yeah, so a double pivot is when you're doing like a 180 or a 270 turn into a new segment of the form, and your turning foot turns twice. So instead of having one smooth pivot into your next stance, you move it 2 times as you are turning around. So Amber gets a 7.0 on the first form.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pre-turn and then a turn.
Right, so it's like a wiggle on the first one. That was good. That was in one motion. I'm trying to see if I can point one out as we go through, but she's doing a good job. There, so that one had 2 motions on the right foot at that 270 spin.
And I think that's just because she just needed to shift her weight a little bit more before she went for that turn. That usually solves the problem. Shift your weight and then turn.
Right, if you can stack your weight on top of that pivoting leg, it'll help you not have any heel pop-ups, not have any double pivots. But a lot of good things in there for Amber Carlson.
Knie.
So she gets a 7.1 on the second Poomsae. Well, we certainly have a lot around this score, right, Miyako?
Yeah, there really are 6-8 to 7-1, 7-2. There's a lot of scores in there.
You know, there's probably so many parents like trying to calculate, see where they're at right now, and wow, a lot of fun pressure today. This is Abigail Arquea from Texas. She trains at HK Taekwondo and Team Forge. Great potential. She's got a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, she's way more comfortable with these single leg side kicks than the double that she opened up with. So looking more comfortable up top here. Good hand techniques. You get this 8 count breather here before the last bar going backwards. So she hits her stance and then her body keeps moving just a little bit more, kind of sinking forward into the stance. You really want to try and cut off all motion once your feet and hands finish the technique.
And another 7.0. So we're going to be really tight on the score here.
Man, if that cutoff is around a 7, it's going to be very, you know, who makes the semis is going to be close. Maybe a little bit softer in those hand techniques coming forward. Pretty stable base leg there. So much more comfortable with the left leg side kick than the right. Did she start that far back? She's right on the curtain there at the end.
Sure, have to go back and look at the recording one more time. You know, sometimes where the camera's positioned kind of does force us back a little bit. I have to look again. She gets a 7.03 for the second one, so a tiny bump for that. And ends up with a 7.017.
Oh, here we go, standings.
Yes. So look at that, Megan Cho in the lead with 7.683, and we still have quite a few athletes to go. So let's take a look at the whole picture here. Our standings will go into several screens. I think it's really close. And this next one here, look at how tight.
Yeah, this is crazy. Look at these 12 scores are from a 7 to a 7.1, and there's 12 scores there.
Yes.
And so again, we're taking the top 30 athletes into the semi. So one more screen here and we'll be able to see that 30th spot right now is a 6.817. But we have still 15, 14 athletes to go. So I think we are going to start to see some higher 7s. It's been interesting. The last 10 or so have been right around that 7 mark.
I think we might have 17 more athletes to go.
Man, okay, I cannot do math, Coach Brand. I'm sorry, everyone. There are 59 athletes and 42 have gone. So you can do the math.
Right. Anything can happen, though, for sure, with the standings at this point. We have so many more athletes to go. This is Ellie Yu from New York. She trains at Team Champions Bayside under her coach, Andrew Oh.
Geez, that's a high front kick. Her whole ankle was above her head.
Right. She has a really nice front kick. A little bit of a swing on some of the side kicks. So a little bit more chamber retraction will help her out.
Yeah, I think she's over rotating her chest just a little bit on the side kick. So the shoulders are rotating down. So really try and keep those shoulders in alignment, looking up at your leg that you're kicking with. but she controls it pretty well.
Hello.
So this is Ellie Yu from New York, training with Team Champions Bayside. She finishes with a solid score of 7.33. It's fun to know, Miyako, that as we're watching the performances and doing the commentary, that people are joining us from all over the country and maybe from other countries as well. It's very exciting that we have so many people from so many states jumping into this competition, right?
Yeah, that's right. We talked about this in a previous episode, or in the Summer of Poomsae, but live performances, so many people are there in the massive stadiums, but maybe only a few people are watching you at that one moment. Here, there's a couple people recording you, that's it, but you could have hundreds, thousands of people watching your video later from all over the world. So that's hopefully lots of fun for everybody.
I'm not sure. You said hundreds of thousands. It could be millions, could be billions.
Well, you got to share the video to make that happen. So make sure you're sharing this live stream with your friends, your family, other Taekwondoists, so that, we can all learn from it.
And she gets a 7.37 for that second Poomsae. So Ellie Yu's in good shape with a 7.35. Yeah, if you're watching this episode, you might just want to text some of your friends, neighbors, coworkers, aunts, uncles, and grandma and grandpa. Make sure that they are watching along for all of this exciting action in the junior female preliminary round of our, first ever online 16.0 tournament. This is Sarah Reksonsky from Connecticut. She's from World Champion Taekwondo Fairfield, and she trains with Master Gunsu Kim and Kwon Jun Ha.
Whoa. Sarah, outside of Taekwondo, enjoys constructing and launching rockets. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
Well, there's lots of launches going on these days with SpaceX, and I think the Chinese or India just put some rockets up on the moon to, test the soil. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the space world these days. I'm also, just watching all the Star Wars movies again, which is semi-relevant.
7.2.
For our future rocket scientist, Sarah.
I know we have a lot of Star Wars and Star Trek fans all over the place in Poomsae. I just started watching Mandalorian. I'm not very, savvy on these productions, but I'm giving this one a try. It looks like a lot of fun, at least so far.
Yeah, they did such a good job of production with it. And it made me, that's actually what made me go back and start to rewatch all the Star Wars movies, is because I wanted to see where the Mandalorian fit into that kind of saga within the series.
Wow,
Sarah, I hope you don't mind that we're just talking about Star Wars over
well,
here.
she probably knows all about it. She's probably really relates to all of those folks with all of her launching going on, and it's probably exploding things in the backyard. She's probably into all of this. So that is Sarah Skansky from Connecticut, and she gets 7.2, another 7.2.
Very consistent scores.
Yeah. This is Annika, what a great name, Tsutsumi from Virginia. She's with U.S. Tigers Taekwondo under Master Dennis Kim.
Stop.
Ooh.
Wow, look at that, nice reach. Really pushing. I'd like to see the recovery stance a little cleaner, but wow, what a great kick.
Yeah, she's also trying to stay really low in this stance, low to low transition. We don't always see that. So here we'll see if she stays low, then high. Oh man, she's really pushing that.
Almost looked like her knee went out, her leg went out of joint. Oh, she kicks a little bit behind herself. That's how she does that.
Yeah, so she drops the shoulders a little, kicks a little behind. That torso drop, again, really low. You do want to get the torso not below 90 degrees. So you don't want to drop towards the ground too much. You want it to be perpendicular to the ground at most or higher. Higher is better. if you don't drop your torso too much.
Yeah, really looking for that Y shape, right? With the side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Annika gets a big 7.4. That's a good spot to be in with that score after the first Poomsae.
Yeah, that's a really big score. We haven't had too many scores above like a 7.3 or so. So if you're getting in that range, then you're going to be definitely into semis, and you should feel good about those scores going into the next round. I think she shortened that back stance a little bit to try and finish on her mark.
Right, and the front stance is a little short. This one she went for a little bit longer, so good job. She's got really good height on her kicking technique throughout the Poomsae, so that's really something wonderful to be able to build on. So that was Annika Tsutsumi from Virginia. She got a 7.4 for her first Poomsae, and now a 7.5. Wow, nice job.
Big scores here.
She finishes with a 7.45, huge score. This is Grace Liu from California. She turns to the Eagles under Master Jung Jin. Sorry, Miyako, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Megan Cho, who went 30th, is holding on to the first place spot so far with a 7.68.
Yeah, she's had it for a bit. That was a huge score. But Grace has some fantastic kicks on that starting line. It's so calm.
And she's tall, too.
She's got to watch that foot hitting and then the hand finishing. So want to finish that hand and foot at the same time.
I think the power is inconsistently coming through for me. I feel like some hand techniques look strong and then some of them are looking placed.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So of all the things to work on, I think that's going to be an easy one for her. Easy adjustment. She gets a 7.4.
So it looks like the scores now are starting to go up.
Right. So after Grace, we have 13 more athletes.
I appreciate you doing that math. I think her fist was a little over rotated to the back on the side kick, so just watch that arm.
Yeah, a little bit of nodding on the kicking techniques, little downward motion and bringing her head back up. So little tiny things to fix, but in general, really strong performance from Grace. She got a 7.4 for her first Poomsae. And now look at that, 7.53. It's kind of what happened with Annika right before. She got a 7.4 and then a 7.5. And now Grace bumping up a little bit more than that. So she gets with a 7.46. My goodness, it's going to be close. This is Yeon Jong. And she's from Alabama. First athlete from Alabama in the division.
But of course, we've seen both of her sisters and her older brother all compete from this family. And look at her sidekick.
Sidekick? Oh my. Really nice height.
Ooh.
Yeah, so confident. Her expression is like, I have this.
She has a little bit of a brace, not quite teapotting, but the hand on her hip on the side kick is definitely pushing into the hip. So you just want to watch that so it doesn't pop out. But man, that side kick is beautiful.
Yeah, for our viewers that don't understand, I'm a little teapot. Miyako, maybe you can explain that one.
Well, for some of us who don't have as great sidekicks, you can put your hand on your hip and try and hold it into place as like support on that hip. Yeowon gets a 7.33 on the first form.
If you do that, then your elbow kind of wobbles outward.
Right, so then your elbow can kind of stick out like you're singing the song, and your hand's on your hip almost. So you want to keep that hand just attached to the side of the hip without pushing in, if that makes sense.
So I see a lot of athletes when they're doing Taebak and they're coming forward, that knee is coming in toward the other knee and then outward forward. So that's something we can look at maybe with the next athlete as they're coming forward on that second line of Taebak to explain. However your stance works, just when you're doing regular front stance drills, that's how it should always move in any form. There's no reason to bring the knees inward toward each other while moving forward. So this is Yoon Jong from Alabama, another good, strong performance, but she has really good grounded technique for the most part. She looks very strong. So she gets another high score, 7.4. And then ends up with a 7.367. So as we saw that number starting to creep up, scores are starting to creep up here. This is Ria Agarwal from Oregon, and she's with the Wangale, coached by Master Sengja Lee.
So again, watch the bracing on the hip with the left hand here. A little bit short on the front stance, might have run out of space. I think her front stances could be longer.
It might be the space. It looks a little bit.
She might have had to cut it
to fit the camera in the space, right? So she gets a 6.93. So on Taebak here, we'll talk about this line coming forward after this first block, kick, punch series right here. So coming forward, do the knees come towards each other? See how they're almost touching, going in and out as she steps forward. She just needs to go straight with the legs. It's because that parry's happening and it makes that foot follow or knees follow. And we just need to make sure it just comes through straight. Wow, nice kick there.
Yeah, she seems really comfortable with those side kicks.
But see, I think it's a space issue.
She might be having to cut them to finish on the mat. Although you didn't have to finish on the mat. You could have stepped off.
Well, you might run into that cabinet back there. So she just tightened everything up on that line and sacrificed the accuracy to make sure she could stay on the mat. So see how that turns out. She got a 6.93 and a 7.17. It's going to be close. So she finishes with a 7.05. Here's the standings here. Megan Cho comfortably in first with a 7.683. And then we'll see several screens. Of course, we're looking for the top 30 athletes in this preliminary round to move on to the semifinals. Let's see how close they are as we're moving through these standings. So tight. Look at 3 with the 7.05.
Wow.
Wow.
So we'll get one more screen here to see the 30th spot, which will determine who's going to the semis. Right now it's a 7.0. But wow, look at 3 of those scores of 7.017
wow,
as well.
Look at that.
3, 6.833. So we have a lot of stacked scores here in the 6.8 to 7.2 range.
Yeah, 3 at 6.833. Nuts. Holy cow.
So here we go. We've had 48 athletes go so far. So this is the full screen of those who have gone. We have 59 total. Is that 10 left?
We have 11 left.
11.
Right.
And that cutoff right now, again, is a 7.00.
So this is Charlene Duong from California training with Team M Taekwondo. She was seated in the number 11 spot for this competition. So these athletes coming up probably competed, right, Summer Poomsae and the NCTA tournament to get their points and then get a higher seed.
Right. So I don't think that Charlene did the NCTA event. Maybe some of these other girls did. So even though she only did the Summer Poomsae, she must have come in pretty high to be ranked here about 11th, with only having done the one tournament. And I think she did the Summer Poomsae in her house. She was up in like a second floor level area on carpet. So now here in the dojang, well, the garage dojang.
So nice strong score, 7.43. And you said that cutoff so far was what?
A 7.00.
All right. So she's in good shape here.
Sure.
And there were so many scores there between, like we said, that 6.8 to 7.2 range. There are 12 athletes between 7.0 and 7.1. So we have, 10 left after Charlene. We're going to be having that score inch up, but it could be around a 7.1 or so by the time we finish. We'll have to see.
Kind of what we saw yesterday with the cadet division.
That's right. I think it was around a 7.1.
Mm-hmm.
About the same score. Nice, comfortable movement. A couple of breaths there at the end of her form for the second one. Again, they do one form, they get a 30-second break, and then they do the second one. Gets cut out to show the scores, but it all had to be in one recording, one take when it was submitted.
Nice jump up to 7.5 for the first one. So combined with her choreo score, 7.43, she's going to be sitting in a nice spot with 7.467. This is Marilee Ganter from Connecticut, training with world champion Taekwondo Amity with Master Henry Kim and Gunsu Kim. Nice reach on those side kicks.
A little bit of an aggressive pulling the arms in on the front kicks.
Mm-hmm. The front kicks were a little bit to the side, both to the left and right side, so not quite centered to the center of the face.
Should the front kicks be center line or in front of the shoulder?
They should be, so when you look at it, hers are off to the left or right shoulder, so she's got to be careful. So she wants to center those on her center line.
Yeah, so the front kick should come to the same like center line that you're punching.
Mm-hmm. So it's Marilee Ganter from Connecticut and gets a 7.23.
I liked that rotation coming forward. Nice open and then a quick punch turn of the shoulders.
Right, good timing on that.
Nice reach control too.
Good pace. She's looking for something that's really going to work for her personal rhythm, and that seemed to be just perfect for her. So she got a 7.23 on the first one. Nice Nice lift on the second one to 7.5. So again, she's in a good spot to 7.367. This is Allison Chen from California. She trains with O's Taekwondo Center under Master Andrew O.
I remember this living room setup from the summer of Poomsae, and she just makes those side kicks look easy.
So she's going to be pretty tight in space here coming forward. It's going to be interesting when she makes a turn at the end of this line.
Right, I remember from the summer Poomsae, she
Ooh,
just barely
made it.
fits. Barely fits. I'm sure her mom and her did a lot of prep work to make sure it all fits in the screen.
Kick. Right, she's got to worry about it right there too. She's able to manage it.
Yeah, right to the top of the screen. Really great job fitting it in frame. And then I like being this close because we can
Right.
see the details. We can feel kind of her presence on the screen, and then we can see all this core and hip. Actually, I wish she had a little more hip action there on the last bar going backwards.
Well, she has a real calm demeanor, and it comes across because we can see her so close.
Yeah.
7.27. So this number is inching up here. That cutoff is going to change a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a cutoff around a 7.1. I think we'll have to check.
Nice high front kicks. He's super calm.
She's really low in her stances too.
So it makes the kick really look higher as she comes up and really pops up.
Yeah.
Ooh. Thought she might hit the edge of that fireplace seating area. Oh, nice front kick. That left one just lays up there. Just like unfolds and just whew, nice extension. That's Allison Chen from California. Trains at O's Taekwondo Center. Master O. She got a 7.27 for the first one. Now, look at
Jeez.
that.
I think that's the highest jump we might have seen.
That's huge. So she ends up with a 7.433. So this is Victoria Sue. She's from California and trains with Dwangale USA with Master Sang Lee. Yeah, this very simple backdrop really highlighting the athlete. No distractions.
Right, it actually also matches her uniform, the white top and the blue pants and the white wall and the blue mats. Pulled up out of that side kick a little fast, but controlled it. Her front stance is actually might be a little narrow. I didn't see much space between her heels at all.
She's got good contrast on her hand technique though, 7.43. We talked about many of the athletes, having a little too much tension throughout the movement, or maybe just placing the technique out there to its finished spot, but she's pretty darn good contrast. Those feet coming in and out too. I think maybe just straightforward is the way to go.
I was looking at her hand techniques. I think her punch came out punching like in line with the shoulder, and then it curved in to the, so it finished in the center line, but it was like hitting on the outer line. So just make sure that that punch comes directly towards that center line coming forward.
A little heel pop. It's interesting how I tend to look lower part of the body from the feet up, and you look from the shoulders down. It's a good score for the first one. Victoria Sue got a 7.43, and now nice jump to 7.57. So that cut off, inching its way up. She finishes with a 7.5. I think we have a few at that score.
Yeah, there are a couple right around there, but still Megan Cho with that 7.6 holding on.
Right. This is Samantha Valdez from California. She's with TG Taekwondo and Team Kim Boya. So she was seeded number 7 going into this event. Nice reach on those side kicks.
Oh, she's so quick. Her kicks are very quick and snappy, on the front kicks especially, but on the side kicks, I feel like she almost, after the extension on the way down, she's like thinking about the next move. And you do want to actively retract the side kick as you're going into the next move.
Right, she gets a 7.17. I don't know, that's going to be pretty close, pretty tight.
That is.
Yeah, hopefully she can get a higher score here in Tebek and get herself nice and safe.
시작!
You're getting some heel pops. A little bit wide and the knees caving like you've been mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a lot of athletes reaching for the height on the side kick, but they're dipping so low to get it that I almost wish they wouldn't go so low. Like the side kick can be a little bit lower, a few inches lower. Don't push your body so low on the torso. You don't need that much of a dip, especially if you can better control the kick itself.
Right, just a nice, clean, well-shaped kick, right, with a clean chamber, clean extension, clean retraction. That'll go a long way rather than just trying to boost up and go for the height. She gets a 7.4. That is a nice bump up again for that second Poomsae.
Yeah, a lot of athletes in the last handful actually have boosted up a lot on the second form, but I wonder if it's just that the first form was actually lower, because the scores are kind of consistently going up on the second form, but that first form is a little low.
Right.
For many.
This is Caitlin Marie Reclusado from California. She trains with Baztekan, let me get this right, Baztekan USA with Master Sangjae Lee.
So that's a nice retraction. I feel like she's not pushing too hard, you're controlled on the way out.
You know why? Because she's aligned herself. Her kick is actually, her head, shoulder, hip, knee, and foot all on the same line. So it makes it a little bit easier to control.
It almost sounded like you were going to sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
That's later. Good finish for Caitlin Reclusado. And a nice reward, 7.47. She was a number 6 seed for this event.
시작.
Ooh, man.
Man, that's very nice.
Nice timing, core turn. I really liked that bar coming forward.
It's great that when she's in this back stance here, this back knee, well, it's got a little wobble there, but that first time she did it on the other side, it was pretty still and calm and solid.
Yeah, and I thought the right side kick was just really nice. Better control on the way down than the left, just by a little bit. But really nice form here. I think this should be also nice and high on the second score.
Mm-hmm. So that was Caitlin Marie Reclusado from California. She's with Bastakan USA Taekwondo and coached by Master Sang Lee. She gets a big 7.57. And finishes with a 7.517. So we have quite a few around 7.5. So look at this. Megan Cho still in the lead.
Wow.
6.683. And then we'll see a few more screens here, looking, of course, for that number 30 spot and where the cutoff is right now. We're going to take the top 30 to the semifinal round, right, Miyako?
Yep, top 30. And we're getting close now. I can count 5 athletes left. But yeah, look at this screen. There's just so many scores in this, 7 to 7-3 range or so.
Right, all stacked up together. We saw this yesterday too, with cadet division, such deep talent in these girls divisions. And look at these 7.05s all stacked up, and then the 7.017 tie, 7.067 tie, and the 7.0 tie.
Yeah, and that cutoff right now, like we just saw there, the 30th spot is a 7.050, and there was like 3 of them.
Right.
So if you're getting like a 7-1, it's going to be close, but there are just 5 athletes left to go. So if you're in a 7-2 or higher, you should be pretty clear here to go to the semis. So just 5 left, Coach Brand, for tonight in this junior black belt female prelim round.
It always gets so exciting right now because we know the score has a good chance anyway of bumping up. This is Kelly Wang from California. She trains with Eagles Taekwondo under Master Jung Jin.
So the front kicks are flying super high here, but her double side kicks were not pushing vertical. Let's see what height she takes here. Yeah, so, not the highest, but really controlled, in alignment. That one a little bit faster than the other side.
So, the athletes have plenty of opportunity to record. So she probably just found a rhythm, says, this is where it feels good. I'm going to go with this.
Hello.
So it's a nice, solid performance from Kelly Wang from California and Eagles Taekwondo. So she gets a 7, look at that, 7.63.
So getting close there to Megan Cho, who's holding on to that first place spot. She's held it for about almost 20, 24 athletes.
Yeah, that seems so long ago that she went, right?
Right.
That's a long time to hold the lead. Good job. Nice alignment there on that side kick. I think if she just extend a little bit more on some of these stances, like she's trying to do here at the end, on that one, if she did that through that back line, she would have been able to demonstrate just a little bit more power.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of those stances going backwards, the leg didn't quite extend. So she might have been trying to shorten it to meet the marker. Not sure what it is, but a little bit lower here, 7.43. Definitely enough to get her to the semis.
Right around that 7.5, where a lot of people are kind of dancing around that same score. So this is Piper Kindle from California. She trains with Team M Taekwondo. Their coaches An Hui and Long Wen. Nice controlled extension on those side kicks. Good height here on the front kicks.
Keeping those knees nice and wide. It didn't cave at all on that single knife hand block into the punch.
Yeah, technically a very strong athlete.
Yeah, really nice solid run there for Piper's first form choreo.
And again, 7.5, I said again, because we have a lot of athletes that end up around the score. So this is really going to be quite tight here at the end, kind of a brutal cutoff, because we have so many good athletes in this division.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that.
That right leg front kick, the first one was right on her nose.
Remarkable.
Nice saving the rotation on the base leg until the front stance, not coming out of it early. Wow.
That right front kick is different than that left one, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
right one just really flies up there.
Sure. Cadet, Junior.
So for the most part, accuracy is really good, but she gets a slightly lower score, 7.4. So she ends up with a 7.45. So up next we have Tiffany Yip from California. She trains at Eagles Taekwondo.
Yep.
She's one of the few athletes that actually does a lower kick on the side kick. A lot of people kind of just go past it or make it look very blurry, but she really has a fairly defined first kick on that double side kick.
So Tiffany came into this tournament in the third ranking spot based on those points that we have. And we have a lot of scores around the 7.5 range, a couple scores up at the 7.6. And she gets a 7.47.
Right, that's the same score Caitlin Reclusado got for her first Poomsae. She ended up with a 7.517. Let's see how Tiffany does.
And Tiffany is on the national team this year for the female junior team. And the way that the points are going to work in the future for team is that it's a sum of the 3 individual scores. So the ranking points can count as a major win for the pathways. So they don't, if you win as a team, you don't get points for that. You get points as an individual. You sum up the 3 individual points to get the team score. So it's just an interesting kind of new way to think about it that kind of encourages teams to be formed out of top performing athletes, which doesn't always take into account sync or, different styles, but just a new way to think about it. And she gets a really big score here, 7.67.
So again, she'll end up around that 7.567. Ton of athletes right there. And in the number 2 seed spot, Chiara Flotildes from Maryland, your neck of the woods, right? Miyako, she trains at Apex Tigers Martial Arts under Master Guido Gunn.
That's right. So I guess she's from Florida, but traveled, I think this is up in New Jersey.
Right.
So her coach is up there, traveled up there to record and get his coaching, which always helps. And I feel like we're going to have a fight off here once we get to the finals between these top 8 or so athletes who are all just really competitive and kind of tournament to tournament. They go back and forth on who takes that number 1 spot. But of course, this is a 16.0 tournament, so you get the most ranking points, but it also counts as a major. So those major wins become really important next year as we try and make the 2021 national team. If you win a major, you get put on the national team roster. If you win 3 majors, you're a dominant athlete. The dominant athlete, you're the only one, then you get the national team spot. So
there can only be one dominant athlete in a division. So if you get that spot, then that means there's no team trials for you. You automatically go on to that team position. She gets a 7.43. So that is the same score that Victoria Su received for her first Poomsae. See if she can boost this up a little bit. In the same way Tiffany did right before her. Tiffany went from a 7.47 to a 7.67.
I feel like choreo, a lot of the bars are broken up by kicks, whereas in Tebek here, we get these bars where hopefully there can be more flow, more connection. She took a little bit more staccato kind of approach to that bar. She's not getting quite as much rhythm in some of these movements.
I admire her clean stance work though. So she was one of the only athletes I've seen so far that has a really clean hakari sogi. So that crane stance, she actually stopped there to show it. And a lot of athletes just go right by it, make it super blurry. So she can look at that. Look at that jump, 7.63. So the same amount of jump that Tiffany got right before her, she ends up with a 7.533. Wow, that's 7.5. Crazy. This is Erica So from California, our last athlete of tonight's junior preliminary round. She's from California and trains with Eagles with Master Jung Jin.
Out of all of the Eagles girls that we've seen today, I think Erica reminds me the most of Karen Rial in style and movement.
Where do you see the similarities, Miyako?
So she has a really nice soft flow, and then it all kind of just freezes at the end, but the arm motions, the volume isn't necessarily circular big, but kind of longer. So it's elongated in an oval shape, and it just gives a really nice kind of big volume without going up, and then clean finish.
Right. So you're mentioning the similarity to Karen Rial, her teammate in the senior division, the 18 to 30 division.
Right. And so Karen was in the Grand Slam last month that we saw with the senior division, and here, big score, 7.67.
So that's a score that Tiffany, her teammate, received for her second Poomsae. So
and that ties with what Megan got. Megan had that first place spot. She might still hold it, 7.67 on the first form.
I have to relax my stomach. I just noticed. I'm like really tight watching this. Nice strong finish for Erica So. Let's see what happens. What do you think, Miyako? Do you have any predictions?
No, I'm just very excited to see.
Chicken. Woo, look at that.
Wow.
So she pulls it out with another 7.67. So finishes with a 7.667. So we're going to see our standings here. Thanks to all of you for watching. Look at this. So Megan Cho held on to that, followed by Erica So, Tiffany and Kelly Wang. in those top spots. But let's see who that cutoff is. What did it end up being? Because
And look at that, 4 scores with the 7.467,
wow,
8, 9, 10, and 11, all the same score.
those referees had a challenging division to look at. We have 59 athletes, and they had to find the top 50% to go into the semifinal round. So many athletes stacked on top of each other's scores. So look at this next one here for the top 30, that Eunice Lee, and she had that 7.1. So that's kind of about what happened yesterday with the cadet division, cadet female division, that being the cutoff. It's just a coincidence because we had different referee group.
That's right. Yeah, there's just so many tight scores here. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us here for the second episode of the Cadet and Junior Grand Slam. We just finished up a huge division of the junior female black belts, and man, that was so close. There were so many tight scores there, Coach Brand.
Yeah, it was a brutal cutoff. I mean, with such deep talent, it was really hard to see any of the athletes have to go. You know, we won't be able to see them in the semifinal round. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them in a future event because they did just such a fantastic job. All of them, every single one of the 59 athletes were just, you know, really on top of it, really focused, ready to go, showing their best. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that everybody out there enjoyed it as well. Everybody from Hong Kong to, to New York, to the Philippines, to Canada, everybody watching, thank you very much for joining us. And we're really looking forward to having you join us for the next episode, right, Miyako? Who do we have coming up?
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to continue the prelim rounds. We're going to have the male cadet black belts. And that's another big division. So make sure you have your snacks, have your drinks with us for tomorrow night. We'll be right back here with you again tomorrow.
Yep, thanks for joining us, and text all your friends, neighbors, coworkers, aunts, uncles, grandmas, and grandpas so that they join us too.
See you tomorrow.